Ethan had always thought living with an alien would feel strange, like something out of the movies. But after a few months with Zira, it almost felt normal. She wasn't the terrifying creature humans used to imagine when they heard the word alien. She wasn't a monster with claws and sharp teeth. Instead, she was tall and elegant, with skin that carried faint silver patterns glowing softly in the dark, like threads of moonlight resting under her skin. Her voice was calm, almost melodic, and she carried herself with a quiet dignity that always made Ethan pause. Still, as normal as life felt most days, there were times when little reminders would break through, small things that told him she wasn't from Earth. The way she tilted her head when she didn't understand a joke. The way she sometimes sat in silence listening, as if she could hear sounds no human could. Or the way she always kept the apartment sealed tightly at night, checking the locks 3 times before she allowed herself to rest. Ethan had noticed, but he never asked. He thought it was just her way of being careful in a world that wasn't hers. That evening, he decided to grab some snacks from the store down the street. It was late and the city outside was quiet, the streets emptying as people tucked themselves in for the night. He reached for the front door, humming to himself, already imagining a bag of chips and maybe a soda to keep him company, while he scrolled through his phone. But when he pulled the handle, the door didn't move. Ethan frowned and tried again. He tugged harder, rattling it against the frame, but it wouldn't open. Confused, he tapped the small security panel on the side, the one Zira always seemed to glance at before leaving. It blinked red. A dull, sharp sound followed, a sound like a lock sliding deeper into place. "What the?" Ethan muttered. He tugged again, harder, but the door stayed shut. A calm voice spoke behind him. "Locked." He jumped and spun around. Zira was standing a few feet away, her glowing eyes watching him quietly. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't panicking. She simply stood there like she had expected this. "What do you mean, locked?" Ethan asked, his heart racing. "The system has engaged," she said softly. "Doors are sealed until sunrise." Ethan blinked at her. He let out a nervous laugh, shaking his head. "You're joking, right? Some kind of alien security prank?" But she didn't laugh. Her expression didn't change. Those silver markings under her skin pulsed once faintly, as if echoing her words. Ethan turned back to the door, his chest tightening. He didn't like being trapped, not even as a joke. He pushed at the door again, slamming his shoulder into it. Nothing. He ran to the window and tried lifting it. A soft shimmer lit up across the glass like a thin sheet of light blocking him. When he touched it, the air buzzed with static, forcing him to pull his hand away. "What the hell is this?" Ethan snapped. "Why can't I get out?" Zira stood in silence, her gaze lowered now. She clasped her hands together almost nervously, though her face remained calm. "Because the night has begun," she whispered. Her words made no sense to Ethan. The night had begun. Nights happened every single day. What made this one different? He stared at her, frustration bubbling up inside him. She had known. She hadn't even tried to warn him. "Are you kidding me?" "You knew this would happen?" His voice was sharper now, carrying a fear he didn't want to admit. "You could have said something, Zira. You could have told me." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, her silver markings glowing faintly brighter in the dim light of the apartment. There was something in her eyes he couldn't name, a quiet sadness, maybe even guilt. "I hoped it would not happen while you were here," she said softly, almost like an apology. Ethan stared at her, his hands curling into fists. The walls felt like they were closing in. He had always trusted her, always thought she meant no harm. But now he was locked inside a sealed apartment with a roommate who wasn't even human, and who clearly knew more than she was telling. And for the first time since meeting Zira, he felt a real chill of fear. Ethan sank onto the edge of the couch, his hands gripping the fabric as his mind raced. The apartment, which had always felt safe and familiar, suddenly seemed like a cage. Every shadow felt longer, every corner darker. Even Zira's calm presence, which normally brought comfort, now only made the space feel more alien, more unknowable. He couldn't stop glancing at the glowing markings on her skin. They pulsed softly like tiny signals he couldn't read. "I don't understand," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "Why would the door lock like this? Why now?" Zira stood quietly, her eyes fixed on him. For a moment, Ethan thought she might step closer, but she didn't. She was silent, and that silence pressed down on him heavier than the locked doors. He ran a hand through his hair and stood abruptly. "Okay, think." Maybe there's a panel, a release, something. He moved toward the wall, inspecting every button, every small console. The glowing lock on the front door remained stubbornly red. The windows, too, shimmered with the same faint barrier. It was no use. He was trapped. "Why didn't you tell me this could happen?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Fear was bubbling under his anger now, twisting his stomach into tight knots. Ira's voice was soft, but it carried weight. "Because I did not think it would occur while you were present." Ethan froze. He had to process that. While I was present? Her words made his chest tighten. She had known this could happen, and yet she had let him walk into it blind. Part of him wanted to yell, to demand answers. But another part, something quieter, more uneasy, warned him that this was not a normal situation, not by human standards. He sank back onto the couch and ran his hands over his face. "Okay, fine. Tell me, what do you mean? What happens at night? What's going on?" Zyra took a step closer, and Ethan noticed her markings shimmer more brightly, almost nervously. "It is my flux, a state my kind enters periodically. It is difficult to explain in human terms." He blinked. "Flux, what does that mean?" Her eyes met his, and he saw something flicker there. A mix of fear and shame. "My energy. It grows beyond control. If I leave the shelter during flux, I could harm others. Unintentionally. The locks are designed to protect not only you, but everyone." Ethan's stomach nodded. Harm others? That was a terrifying thought. He had lived with her for months and never suspected this. She had always seemed so calm, so gentle. Yet now, knowing she could accidentally hurt someone, even him, made his chest tighten with dread. I don't know what to say," he whispered. He wasn't sure if he was angry, afraid, or just overwhelmed by the strangeness of it all. "You could have told me." "We could have prepared. Something." Zyra lowered her gaze. Her luminous markings dimmed slightly. "I wanted to protect you from fear. My flux, it is frightening even for me. I did not wish to burden you." Ethan's heart softened slightly, though tension still coiled in his chest. She had been trying to protect him, even if her way of doing so had trapped him inside. He looked around the apartment, seeing it through new eyes. The walls, the furniture, even the small kitchen, all now seemed suffocating. Hours stretched on. Ethan could hear the faint hum of Zyra's internal energy, like the pulsing of some alien heartbeat. He felt a mix of fascination and anxiety. Part of him wanted to run, to escape to the streets outside, but the locks wouldn't allow it. The other part, the part that had shared dinners, laughter, and quiet evenings with her, told him to stay. "What happens if it gets worse?" he asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. Zyra's silver markings brightened again, and she sighed softly. "It has happened before. My kind sometimes loses control. Most of us endure it alone, but not tonight. You are here. You will see it." Ethan swallowed hard. He didn't know if he wanted to see it. Fear churned in his stomach, but beneath it there was something else, curiosity. A strange human curiosity that wanted to understand her, even if it was terrifying. He moved closer, hesitating just a step away. "Then I'll stay. I'll stay with you," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. Zyra looked at him, shock and something unspoken in her luminous eyes. You should hide. This is dangerous," Ethan shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere, not now. Not when you might need someone." For the first time that night, a faint warmth touched the cold tension in the apartment. Two beings from completely different worlds stood facing the unknown together, and even as the night stretched on, Ethan felt a small spark of courage. He didn't know what the flux would bring, but he knew one thing. He wouldn't abandon her. Ethan sat on the edge of the couch, his eyes fixed on Zyra as she moved quietly around the apartment. She seemed smaller somehow, not in size but in presence, weighed down by something invisible. Her glowing silver markings pulsed slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat he could see rather than feel. The light was soft now, but he knew it could flare at any moment. He swallowed hard, trying to find the right words. "Okay, Flux, what exactly happens? How dangerous is it?" Zyra paused, looking at him with a flicker of hesitation. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if speaking might make the words real. "Flux is a surge of energy. My body produces power beyond what is safe for your kind. Even a simple touch could hurt. A sudden movement, a glance, it could be enough." Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "Wait, even me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "You could hurt me." She nodded slowly, her silver markings dimming a little as she did. Yes, it is not intentional. I do not wish to harm anyone, especially not someone I care about. But the energy, it cannot always be contained. Fear prickled along Ethan's spine. He had shared meals with her, talked late into the night, laughed at each other's jokes. Never had he imagined that the same person who poured tea for him could suddenly become dangerous. Yet he also saw the weight in her eyes, the exhaustion hidden beneath her usual calm. She wasn't trying to scare him. She was trying to survive. Why? Why did no one tell me? He asked quietly. His hands gripped the edge of the couch. No warnings, no preparation? Just locked in here with something that could hurt me? Zira's gaze dropped. Her hands twitched slightly as if trying to grasp something invisible. I hoped it would not happen while you were present. My people, we usually endure flux alone. We isolate ourselves. It is safer for everyone. Ethan's mind raced. He had never felt so helpless. He wanted to leave, wanted to run outside into the night air, but the apartment was sealed tight. And now he realized that Zira's calm demeanor, her everyday routines had all been hiding a deeper, more dangerous truth. He took a deep breath and softened his voice. So, it's dangerous, but you're not going to hurt me if I stay calm? Zira's silver markings pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat racing. Perhaps. But my energy is unpredictable. You cannot control it. I cannot always control it myself, Ethan swallowed. The fear didn't leave him, but another feeling rose beneath it. A strange mix of empathy and determination. This wasn't just a locked door or a late-night prank. This was someone else's life, entirely different from his, and she had trusted him enough to let him see it. What happens during flux? He asked, his curiosity stronger than his fear now. Zira closed her eyes for a moment, then spoke slowly. My mind becomes chaotic. Thoughts and emotions surge uncontrollably. Pain, fear, joy, sorrow, they all mix together. My body reacts to the storm inside. Most of my kind, those who experience flux, hide in special chambers sealed until it passes. It is lonely, but safe. Ethan's chest ached. He imagined her there alone, trembling under some invisible force that no human could understand. He had seen her calm, confident, graceful, but she wasn't invincible. She was vulnerable, and now he realized how rare this moment was. She had chosen to share her truth with him. Then, I'll stay, he said, his voice soft but firm. I don't care if it's dangerous. You're not going through this alone. Zira opened her eyes slowly, the silver markings glowing faintly brighter. There was surprise there and something else, something warm, almost human. You do not understand what you are saying. Most would run. They would fear it. Ethan shook his head. No, I may be human, but I'm stubborn. And maybe that's what being human is about, choosing to stay even when it's scary. For the first time, a small, fragile smile touched Zira's lips. You give me hope. Ethan's own lips lifted in a quiet smile. He didn't fully understand her flux or the danger it carried, but he understood one thing clearly. She wasn't just an alien roommate anymore. She was someone he cared about, deeply. Someone he was determined to protect in any way he could, even if all he could do was stay by her side. Watch and wait. As the night deepened, the apartment felt heavier with tension, but also with a quiet connection. Two beings from different worlds shared the same small space, facing a storm that neither fully understood. And though fear lingered, there was also courage, and the fragile beginnings of trust. Night had deepened, and the apartment felt smaller, heavier, as though it carried the weight of the unseen force within Zira. Ethan watched her carefully, noticing how she shifted from foot to foot, her silver markings glowing in a slow, trembling rhythm. The light seemed to respond to her emotions, pulsing faster when she inhaled sharply or closed her eyes in discomfort. He had seen her calm, graceful, and composed before, but now she seemed fragile, vulnerable, like a human might when sick with a high fever. Her breathing quickened, uneven, and Ethan instinctively reached toward her. Zira, are you okay? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. His chest tightened with fear he didn't fully understand. He had always known she was different, but watching her now, experiencing something so alien and uncontrollable, he realized just how delicate her life could be. She flinched at his words, but did not pull away. No, not okay, she whispered, her voice low and strained. The flux, it is strong tonight, stronger than usual. Her silver markings flickered brightly now, like lightning trapped beneath her skin. Ethan's eyes widened. He had never seen her glow like this. never noticed how much energy she carried inside her. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Then, "I'll stay," he said softly, stepping closer. "You're not alone." Zira looked at him, eyes wide, as if shocked that he would willingly stay near something that could hurt him. "You could be in danger," she murmured. Ethan shook his head. "I don't care. I'm not leaving. Not when you're like this." Her trembling intensified. She clutched at her head, her glowing markings flaring wildly. "It feels like fire," she gasped. "Like every part of me is alive and burning at the same time." "I cannot stop it," Ethan's heart pounded. He had never felt fear like this, not for himself, but for someone else. He wanted to help, to do something, anything. But what could a human do against alien energy that could explode at any moment? Yet he refused to move away. He reached for her hands, gently holding them, hoping that his presence, his touch, could anchor her. "You're not alone," he repeated, quieter this time. "I'm here. Just hold on. Breathe with me." Zira's eyes met his, glimmering with panic and relief at the same time. Her hands shook in his, but she did not pull them away. Slowly, her breathing began to respond, mirroring his own. The light from her markings continued to flicker, but more evenly, like a storm starting to settle. Minutes passed. Ethan could feel the energy in the room, a subtle vibration in the air that made the hairs on his arms rise. Her body trembled against his, and he held her tightly, whispering words he didn't know she could understand. Words of comfort, words of trust, words of strength. He had no power over her flux, no way to calm it with knowledge or skill. All he had was himself, and he offered it fully. And slowly, as if she had borrowed a fraction of his calm, the storm inside her began to ebb. Her trembling eased, and the bright pulses of silver light softened, glowing like the gentle shine of dawn just before sunrise. Zira slumped against him, exhausted, her breath still uneven but quieter now. Ethan did not move. He wrapped an arm around her, supporting her weight, and whispered, "It's okay. I'm here. You're safe. You made it." For the first time that night, she allowed herself to relax fully, leaning against him in a fragile, trusting way. Her glow dimmed almost completely, leaving only a faint shimmer along her arms and neck. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting something more than gratitude, something like hope, and a quiet relief that he had stayed, that he had not abandoned her when the storm had threatened to overwhelm her. Ethan's own chest felt tight with emotions he had not expected. Fear had transformed into care into deep concern, and concern into something warmer, something human that transcended species. He realized as he held her through the long night that this was what it meant to truly connect with someone, not to fear their differences, not to run from danger, but to face it together. And as the apartment grew quieter, the night stretched on, Ethan understood that some of the strongest bonds were forged not in comfort, but in facing the storms that no one could predict, alien, human, or otherwise. The hours dragged on like slow-moving shadows. Ethan stayed close to Zira, his presence a steady anchor in the storm of her flux. Her glowing markings flickered erratically now, brighter than ever, casting strange dancing shadows across the walls. The apartment pulsed with her energy, and Ethan could feel it in his bones, a vibration that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Zira's breathing became rapid and shallow. She clutched her head with both hands, trembling violently. Her silver markings surged in brightness, streaks of light running across her arms, chest, and neck, making her look almost unearthly. Ethan felt a pang of fear that shot straight to his heart. She was fragile yet powerful. She was suffering, and he was the only one there with her. "Zira," he shouted, rushing to her side. She faltered, nearly falling, and he caught her just in time. Her body was hot, electric, trembling like a live wire. He held her tightly, careful not to let go, even as fear and panic threatened to take over his own mind. "You'll get hurt," she gasped, her voice breaking, almost a whisper. The panic in her eyes made Ethan's chest ache. "I don't care," he said firmly, his hands gripping her shoulders, keeping her steady. "You're not alone. I'm right here. I'm not leaving." Her silver markings flared violently, brighter than any light he had ever seen. It was blinding, almost painful to look at, yet he didn't look away. He couldn't. Something inside him refused to abandon her, even if he could be hurt. He leaned closer, whispering softly. Words of comfort he barely understood himself. "It's okay, breathe. Just breathe. You're safe. I won't let anything happen to you." Zira's body shook harder, but she clung to him. The alien energy swirling inside her seemed to react to his calm, responding in small, subtle ways. The violent flares became erratic sparks, flickers that gave brief moments of hope. Ethan held her through it all, whispering encouragement, refusing to break eye contact. He had no idea how much longer it would last, but he couldn't leave. Minutes stretched into hours. Every second felt heavier than the last. Ethan's arms ached from holding her, but he didn't release her. He realized that sometimes strength wasn't about power. It was about staying even when fear clawed at you. He stayed, because he couldn't imagine letting her go through this alone. Then, at the peak of the flux, Zira cried out, a sound that resonated deep in Ethan's chest, raw and full of pain. The light from her markings became blinding, filling the apartment with a silvery glow. Ethan's heart raced. He whispered fiercely, "You can do this. I'm here. You're not alone. Please, hold on." Her trembling slowed, imperceptibly at first. The brightness of her markings softened slightly, the wild streaks of light fading into steady, gentle pulses. Ethan felt her body relax fractionally against his, and a small sense of relief surged through him. "You're still here," Zira whispered, her voice trembling, exhausted but filled with something that sounded like gratitude. Her eyes looked up at him, and for a fleeting moment the fear and chaos of the night vanished, leaving only trust. Ethan managed a shaky smile. "Of course. I'm not going anywhere, not when you need me." Her silver markings glimmered softly now, the storm within her finally beginning to ebb. She slumped against him, breathing heavily, eyes closed. But for the first time, calmness began to replace panic. Ethan continued to hold her, not moving, simply offering his warmth and his presence. He realized then that this night had changed something between them. The flux was a force he could never control, but he had discovered that human courage, stubbornness, and empathy could matter even to an alien being. Zira had endured something terrifying, something most of her kind faced alone, and he had chosen to stay. That choice, small as it seemed, had mattered. Ethan whispered again, his voice quiet but firm. "You're safe now. I've got you. Just rest. Please." Her silver markings dimmed further, leaving only the faintest glow across her skin. She leaned into him fully, trusting him in a way she rarely showed. And in that moment, Ethan felt a surge of emotion he hadn't expected. Pride, relief, love, and wonder all at once. He had faced fear, faced the unknown, and chosen to stand by her. And she had survived, because he didn't run. The first light of dawn seeped into the apartment, soft and golden, brushing against the walls like a gentle reminder that night's chaos had passed. Ethan held Zira carefully in his arms, her body still trembling faintly, though the violent storm of her flux had eased. The apartment, once alive with pulses of alien energy, was now quiet, serene, almost ordinary, except for the faint glow of her silver markings, fading slowly like the last embers of a fire. Ethan lowered her gently onto the couch, brushing damp strands of hair from her face. Her eyes fluttered open, hazel light blending with the faint silver of her markings. She looked at him, startled at first, as if she had expected him to be gone, to have run when the storm was at its fiercest. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice soft, hoarse from exhaustion. Ethan shrugged, trying to make light of it, but his chest tightened with emotion. "Yeah, I stayed. Told you I wouldn't leave." He smiled faintly, though his eyes betrayed the nights of fear and worry he had felt. "Besides, you weren't exactly a danger I could run from." Zira blinked slowly, processing him, her gaze softening. "Most humans would flee. They fear what they do not understand." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not most humans. I guess stubbornness runs in my family, or maybe it's just me." He gave a small chuckle, though it sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Anyway, I stayed because you mattered. That's it." For a moment, silence fell between them, the kind of silence that isn't empty but full of everything that had just passed. The fear, the chaos, the exhaustion, and the fragile threads of trust that had formed in the night. Zira's silver markings glimmered faintly, a quiet echo of her energy like a heartbeat slowing after a run. I've never had anyone do this before," she admitted, her voice low. "During flux, we are usually alone. Isolation is safety. But you chose to stay." Ethan met her gaze. "I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want you to go through that alone. Maybe because, well, you're not just some alien roommate. You're Zira." Her lips curved in a small, tired smile. "You give me hope, Ethan." Hope I did not know I could feel in the presence of another being. Ethan felt a warmth bloom in his chest. Hope. He realized that despite fear, despite the alien powers and unknowns, trust had grown between them stronger than he had imagined. They had faced the storm together, and something human, something deeply human, had mattered more than alien energy or danger. Outside, the locks on the doors clicked softly, freeing the apartment from the confinement of the night. Ethan glanced at the front door and then back at Zira. "The doors are open now," he said gently. "You're free to leave if you want." Zira shook her head, sitting up slowly. She stretched, her markings glowing faintly, but she didn't move toward the door. "No, I will not leave. Not after you stayed. Not after you risked yourself." Ethan raised an eyebrow, surprised. "You don't have to stay if you don't want to. I'm not asking you to, but I guess I hoped you'd want to." She met his gaze fully now, her silver patterns faintly shimmering across her arms. I want to stay. Because you stayed for me." Ethan smiled, a little more relaxed now, feeling the tension of the long night dissolve. "Then we're even," he said softly. "You've got me, and I've got you." For a long moment they simply sat together, the apartment bathed in the soft light of sunrise. The danger had passed, but what remained was more important. The bond that had formed between human and alien, forged in trust, fear, and courage. Ethan realized that being human wasn't just about surviving. It was about choosing to stay, choosing to care, choosing to face the unknown with someone else. Zira leaned her head slightly on his shoulder, her glowing markings calming to a faint, steady shimmer. "Thank you, Ethan," she said quietly. "For staying. For understanding. For being human." Ethan's heart swelled. "And thank you, Zira. For trusting me." "That means more than I can say." As the morning sun spilled fully into the room, warm and bright, Ethan felt a new kind of calm settle over him. The flux had passed. The storm was over. And in its place was something stronger than fear, something deeper than survival. It was trust, it was connection, and it was hope. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he could face them. Because sometimes, being human meant choosing to stay. The apartment was quiet now, bathed in the golden light of morning. Outside, the city was waking, cars and footsteps slowly filling the streets. But inside there was a calm, almost sacred stillness. Ethan and Zira sat together on the couch, the night's chaos behind them, though its echoes still lingered in their minds and hearts. Zira's silver markings shimmered faintly, a gentle reminder of the storm that had passed. She looked at Ethan with a gaze that was steady, yet soft, as if weighing the depth of what had just happened. "Most of my kind never have another being stay with them during flux," she said quietly, her voice low but clear. "It is always solitary. We endure alone, because we must." Ethan nodded, understanding more than she realized. "But you're not alone anymore," he said simply. "Not while I'm here. Not if I can help it." Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment she seemed almost uncertain. Then she smiled, a faint, tired smile that held gratitude, relief, and a touch of wonder. "You are human," she said softly, almost as if she were saying it to herself. "And yet your courage, your empathy, it is beyond what most of my people would ever imagine. You stayed, when you could have fled. You risked yourself to be here. That is rare." Ethan felt a warmth bloom in his chest. He realized that she wasn't praising him for heroics or strength. She was acknowledging a human choice, a choice to care, to stay, to act out of trust rather than fear. And in that moment he understood something deeply. Being human was not just about survival or skill. It was about connection, courage, and compassion. "I stayed," he said softly, "because you matter. Not because I'm brave or anything like that. I stayed because no one should go through something like that alone. And because, well, I care." Her gaze lingered on him, her silver markings pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "Then perhaps humanity is more remarkable than we thought," she whispered. "More than just biology or technology. It is choice. And choice can save, even in ways the strongest power cannot." Ethan smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I guess that's one thing humans do well. We choose. Sometimes stubbornly, sometimes foolishly. But we choose." Zira tilted her head, her expression softening. "And because of your choice, I have hope. Hope that trust can exist, that connection can survive fear, and that I am not alone in this world. Ethan reached for her hand, holding it gently. The touch was simple, human, but it carried everything words could not. It said, I am here. I will stay. I will face whatever comes with you.